Forged secretly in mortuary archaeology's hottest furnace, it's Archaeodeath.
Archaeodeathlings, it's Archaeology Professor Howard Williams here. Now on my YouTube channel you can find interviews between myself and That Rebel Rabbi reviewing all of the revived series of the successful TV show of Doctor Who, and we went through Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker's series, and we are going to soon start on Ncuti Gatwa's time as Doctor Who. But in the meantime, I thought I would give you a review of a presentation that I don't think I've shared before on social media about archaeology and Doctor Who, to set something of the context of why archaeologists would look at a very successful long-running children's science fiction show, and to get you thinking about the different ways we can think about time travel and its relationship to archaeology and archaeologists, the subject and the people who study the past through material traces. So there are many different archaeological dimensions to Doctor Who, both in terms of the places travelled and the people encountered, and the Doctor as a character himself. And this is therefore an important aspect of what I've been trying to do in my scholarship, as well as investigate the human past, particularly focusing on mortuary archaeology and early medieval archaeology, but also consider the many intersections between our discipline and popular culture. So for example, from a 2017 conference session organised by my third year level 6 students, through to a peer-reviewed but open access publication edited by myself and Pauline Clark called Digging into the Dark Ages, Early Medieval Public Archaeologies, we try to look at the many intersections between the early Middle Ages archaeology and our museums, heritage sites, our social media, our various news media and documentaries and fictions and fantasies, the arts more broadly, and our popular culture. And we talk about the many different dark ages or early medievalisms in our contemporary world, from heritage sites to reenactors, from museums to public sculpture to TV shows and films, as well as YouTube channels and so on. And these are some of the images from that Digging into the Dark Ages book to capture that eclectic ways from Mead to early medieval carved stone monuments. We encounter the early Middle Ages in our popular culture, and this is true of many other periods and places. But that sets up the question of why would we specifically want to look at Doctor Who as a time traveller, saving the universe, protecting the earth, and exploring with companions and combating many monsters and alien species, as well as humans on our earth and in space. And so why an archaeology of Doctor Who? And I start off by showing the sort of representation of the Doctor when in the library he encounters for the first time River Song, an archaeologist, and he says, "You're not, are you? Tell me you're not archaeologists." And she says, "Got a problem with archaeologists? I'm a time traveller. I point a laugh at archaeologists." And I would like to start off by saying that this is patently a lie. The Doctor is not laughing at archaeologists. He's acting in many ways like an archaeologist, or various pop culture tropes of what an archaeologist could and should be, if not actually what archaeologists do. So this is a long-running TV show from 1963. It's incredibly popular, and many episodes have been reviewed tens of millions of times in the UK alone. It's an eclectic and versatile show, cross-cutting genres of fiction and horror with hundreds of creators. It is about knowledge and education. It's entertainment, but it has fragments of the past and our universe, and helps us to reflect on ethics and morality, as well as time and mortality. and the pervasive concepts of time travel and history are matched with an obsession almost in some episodes and series with memory. What can be remembered and how do people remember? How they personally recollect, but how they mediate the past with material culture, which is a key theme for my archaeological research and that of others. And it's also fascinated with different types of mortality and different ways people try to extend or circumvent their own mortality, various different ideas about what it means to be mortal and what it means to be immortal, as characters, including the Doctor himself or themselves, transforms and goes through different generations, regenerations, and combats and forms alliances with a range of individuals who are also timeless or time fixed, but attempt or negotiate with those temporal boundaries. A lot of Doctor Who is about concepts of what is a society, what is civilized versus savagery and barbarianism, and this is a theme that's already been well recognised in the work of Professor Brian Boyd, who has, as I shall show you, has already addressed the archaeology of Doctor Who. And themes of colonialism are persistent both in the societies encountered and in the Doctor himself as a kind of colonial era archaeologist slash missionary slash hero who is trying to protect indigenous people but also appropriate and plunder, play fast and loose with the rules of the universe of time itself. He's a rogue, but he's also an appropriator and a manipulator of time and people. And a lot of the show is about different kinds of humanity and different ways to be inhuman, from monsters and mechanoids. Different kinds of non-human and post-human humanities operate in the universe, from computers to individuals who are part tree or part cat, or have different kinds of cyborg relationships with computers and other mechanical devices. So the Doctor, in addition to all those themes that touch on archaeology of past societies and how they perceive monsters, the supernatural, the other, the alien, the non-in group, the out group, the Doctor himself is a kind of archaeologist. In the Cornelius Holtorf tropes, he is a bit of and adapting them slightly here, he is an adventurer, a detective, he's a revelatory, he reveals truths and hidden spiritual nuggets of knowledge and insight, and he's also a guardian of the galaxy, of the universe, but also of the Earth. He is a protector of heritage and people. And the TV show is permeated with many different kinds of special and magical buildings, monuments, devices and material culture. So many of the worlds navigated by the Doctor and the storylines fixate on different kinds of archaeological object, different kinds of treasure, be they devices wielded by the Doctor himself or the focus of the obsessions and interests of his enemies. Now, I haven't done a full historiography of academic reflections on Doctor Who, but I'm aware that mythological and historical themes have been addressed in multiple edited collections, but I'm only aware of one book, an edited collection by Miles Russell of Bournemouth University, with a preface from the now sadly late Douglas Adams, from over almost 24 years ago, published called Digging Holes in Popular Culture, Archaeology and Science Fiction, in which the aforementioned Professor Brian Boyd does have a chapter addressing some key themes in the archaeology of Doctor Who. But I think there's a lot more that could be said about the material culture, built environment, landscapes represented in the show, as well as the themes that connect the characters to their adventures. So in trying to synopsize this for even the more recent 2005 to the present content is a tall order for a short presentation, but let me try to capture some of the key issues and themes. A lot of this is to do with how we think about the Doctor as a mediator between worlds, with the supernatural, with the dead, and with the past, presents and futures. and is able to connect to material culture in distinctive ways. So firstly, I'd like to point out that in broadest terms, prehistory, which is the puns will continue, I'm afraid, there's many different ways in which the prehistoric past of Earth is represented in the show, both on Earth and in the galaxy. So here we have a montage of images from filming at Stonehenge for the Pandorica and the Underhenge where the Pandorica resides, to other episodes where Stonehenge is featured, where prehistoric monuments are passage graves of northeast Scotland are represented in relation to Pictish symbol stones, and of course the oldest writing in the universe, which the TARDIS is able to translate as saying "hello sweetie." So we learn that the universe itself has its oldest traces that are explored and interrogated. And issues of time and the manipulation of time are linked to archaeological themes again and again, as in the storyline about the Silence and Area 52 as a pyramid, to aliens that travel in pyramids, to Egyptian pharaohs and queens, Queen Nefertiti in outer space, and the sinister mummy on the Orient Express, which we learn is actually a warrior from an ancient battle looking to be healed. So we all have these Egyptian and Egyptomania themes, the link between 19th and early 20th centuries, and this sort of nostalgia for a time and aesthetic of exploring the ancient past on Earth is drawn upon in many different ways. So there's, as well as prehistory, there's Egyptomania. Friends, Romans and Whovians. The Roman past gets featured, and some of this is a homage to the First Doctor, but we go to Pompeii, we meet Romans in the Wiltshire landscape of Stonehenge. We see also the lines from Tacitus, they make deserts and call it peace. And to which the Doctor, Peter Capaldi's Doctor, replies, "Yeah, but you got to love the indoors toilets, yeah." So jokes made about ancient classical texts, and the Romans and Picts seen fighting each other, but then joining forces to fight an interdimensional creatures, which we presume is inspired by the Pictish beasts on some symbol stones from north and eastern Scotland. The Middle Ages, or the Middle Who Ages, features quite prominently in many themes in the revived series, from filming locations, from Bodiam to Sken Frith to Harlech, to out of this world libraries of the headless monks, and the ossuary with all their skulls there, very dark, moody theme. We have Casteth Koch in the centre, used as a filming location for the attack of the Cybermen. And again and again, medieval provides backdrop, but also it provides a kind of key sense of pastness of the backward, of the more simple than the times of space travel and time travel. The modern era from the 16th century onwards gets represented again and again, from Paris in the 18th century to contemporary London, to London in the Blitz, to London in the Shakespeare's time. The last 500 years dominate in how the Doctor's perceived and explores the world. But it must be said there are many alternative futures played out and explored in the show, from planets where there are statues and relics, but then we find out that the statues are anything but, to footprints of the Neverwhere. The Romans and the TARDIS all succumb and die with the opening of the Pandorica, as time is reworked. We encounter outer space garbage dumps and memory police who are manipulating and controlling the memories of people on Earth. And a big theme of many episodes is storage and preservation and conservation of heritage assets and manuscripts. So we have the library, we have universities, we have museums, we have ossuaries, and we also have treasuries featured again and again, as well as the Lunar University in 5123 when River Song achieves her career. And the biggest theme of interest to me is mortuary archaeology. Mortuary archaeology, which is, I think, a very important theme for exploring the themes of mortality and loss of companions of the Doctor himself. We have graveyards as places where seen as sort of portals or conduits to other realms and other worlds. We have the Cybermen resurrecting out of graves. We have graves in the past, and of two companions, different versions of companions, the Clara Oswin Oswald, Ellie Oswald. We have Rory and Amelia's grave. And of course the Doctor himself, his grave on Trenzalore, which is the TARDIS becomes his tomb, and so you have a cemetery of all the dead from the battles on Trenzalore, as well as the Doctor's own grave. And the angels are a funerary theme because they exist in time and they suck time. They take time away by projecting people back. So they are a creature that is inspired by churchyard angelic memorials, but that comes out of the churchyard to attack and appropriate. We also have representations of funerals, including the Doctor making his way into into a mortuary space within the Dalek. Nobody guards the dead. Mortuaries and larders always the easiest to break out of. To in show remembrances of key characters, such as Rose's father being killed by a car. We have supernatural possession. We have homages to key characters, so Lethbridge Stewart there, and the cremation of the Master, from which a ring is taken and the Master is able to resurrect his body and return. But all these mortuary themes are prominent in Doctor Who. And one particular period that interests me is the early Middle Ages, the Dark Who ages of the 5th to 11th centuries. And Professor T. Pork has already addressed this in a series of blog posts looking at the way in which Doctor Who portrays Anglo-Saxon England, early medieval Britain more broadly, looking at some of the older themes. And he focuses on the Vikings as historical aliens and a kind of a-religious perception of Anglo-Saxon England as his key takeaways. But there are a range of archaeological episodes and themes, particularly those from the early Middle Ages, which we find in the show, such as the Bad Wolf theme has Rose Tyler portray herself as almost like a Valkyrie, a saviour, through to the Christmas invasion of 2005, where battling the Sycorax. They are sort of the ultimate alien barbarians, so they're like fictional equivalents to early medieval peoples. And the future kind, humanity has regressed to the barbarian or the savage at the end of time. So we get this idea that barbarity and civilization are poles apart, but have the repeat aesthetics of leather and face tattoos to articulate who they are in relation to civilization. This is an obsession with the Roman Empire and its aftermath and the relationships to what comes next. And of course there are characters with distinctively English names, such as Harold Saxon, who plays the Master, and he is the embodiment of not only medievalism but of the evil English, who will bring in global destruction through an invasion from the end of time. It's a great, deeply ironic plot. We also have some early medieval finds and artefacts that are featured, such as in Planet of the Dead in 2009, the treasured Saxon past is evoked by a chalice once given to Haldar, from Haldar to King Athelstan, and it's been stolen by Christina Lady D'Souza from the London Museum. And we also have representations of Picts, who are late Roman, early medieval peoples in northern and eastern Scotland, where they are fighting against supernatural forces as well as the Romans, and the Pictish beasts on the stones are interpreted, as is the TARDIS, in relation to the sci-fi plot. The Pandorica itself travels through the Dark Ages, as can be seen on this timeline, from taken back to Rome under armed guard, raided by the Franks, prized possession of the Knights Templar, donated to the Vatican. It's very much like the Maltese Falcon. It's this long, illustrious history in which it's acquired significance, presumably different from that from which it was designed. And we have comedy. We have the Wedding of River Song, where we have live chess with the Space Odin and the Headless Monks. So all these dark Gothic themes, but also themes that connect the past, the present and the future. And the Doctor himself receives an early medieval style of notional grave, the cremation in a boat, here on Lake Silencio. In the episode The Impossible Astronaut, we actually see another early medieval trope, that of the flaming conflagration, the cremation of the dead in a boat. And this is a theme that is popular in our culture, and it maybe have limited moorings in any archaeological evidence, but it is repeatedly sort of drawn out as an example of a romantic, definitive, and yet public witnessed dissolution of a corpse. And the most popular example of this, I have argued, is the graphic novel and then film V for Vendetta. In other words, it doesn't exist in historical drama most prominently, but actually in science fiction and dystopian futuristic horror. And in that regard, I think Doctor Who's representation here as being cremated on Lake Silencio, witnessed by River Song and Rory and Amy Pond and the rest, is an attempt to connect to those themes, those romantic themes of death as a voyage, as a definitive end, and yet with the hope of a new beginning. Now, as we later learn, this is a trick, and the Doctor is not really cremated at all. It is the Tesselector, who a sort of a robot full of very miniaturized people that is taking his place to fool the Silence. But still, I think it's a really evocative theme, and also we have further examples of early medieval themes. The Ice Warriors are kind of space Vikings, and in Empress of Mars 2017 we see an effigy, a medieval effigy tomb style arrangement, which we learn is not a tomb but is a stasis pod for the Queen, or the Empress of the Ice Warriors. But we have this kind of funerary encounter of the Viking / medieval period. And then we have the episode that's actually about Vikings, The Girl Who Died, where we have basically it's a conflict of warriors between space Vikings, the Mira, and a village of Vikings. But we work out that it's a non-binary, imaginative girl who's able to tell stories and create scenarios that with the Doctor's help, beats the space Vikings, the Mira, and scares them off. And so it's a story about the imagination of the Vikings and their storytelling and their ability to use that imagination to fight off those that would seek to fool them into who are trying to extract their warriorness to use as part of their warrior culture. And so the Doctor sort of allows that imagination combined with his ingenuity to face off and use electric eels, which for some reason are existing in the Viking world, to power their defence and trick and humiliate the Mira into leaving. Now we also have an early recon scout Dalek in the 2019 resolution reaching Earth and being fought in the 9th century by many armies who have Viking aesthetics, including the black face paint, which is all the rage from the TV show Vikings, used to represent this warrior woman, one of 3 surviving representatives of armies that come together to defeat this one Dalek, sorry, and they cremate the Dalek and then take its constituent parts to bury it in different parts of the world, so it can never reconnect itself. But of course, one of them dies, and this is one of the most atrocious representations of an archaeological excavation. But that point aside, archaeologists are shown as the feckless fools who accidentally uncover the part of the Dalek, which then takes control and tries to re-establish itself in its domination of the world. But here you have the bones. I don't know what those numbers are supposed to represent, but the archaeologist has laid out the bones because they're actually excavating on where this person had been killed and somehow just morphed into the soil undisturbed, no carrion, no burial, and then this site is somehow preserved under Sheffield City Hall. None of it makes sense taphonomically or in any other regard, but it's about archaeology shown uncovering the early Middle Ages, and the horrors that those archaeological deposits contain are the potential doom of the world. So, putting all this together, we have not only many historical and archaeological themes running through Doctor Who, both the on-world, the on-Earth, and the extraterrestrial episodes, explorations of past, present and future, but we have a specific interest in the Dark Ages, the early Middle Ages, a time of origins and a time of mystery, in which various different themes play with space renditions of early medieval peoples and barbarians, and also we go back to the early Middle Ages in different regards. So I think my field of specialism in the early Middle Ages is represented in Doctor Who, and not simply in direct historical ways, but in various tropes and themes and materialities that cross-cut multiple episodes, and the names of characters and the styles and stereotypes of early medieval peoples, nomads and barbarians that come to the fore. And so in that regard, I hope this is an interesting little exploration of the archaeology of Doctor Who and the many different ways we can explore the relationships between archaeology and popular culture. You're welcome.
Follow Archaeo Death on YouTube, TikTok, WordPress, and a host of other social media.